Let's have the first speaker of the affirmative side is saying yes, we should stop this fighting sport. So you're number one?
Yes.
Okay, so please welcome.
My fellow Toastmasters, it is a fundamental human principle that we should not harm one another. Every religion teaches this as one of their primary principles. And there's a reason for it, is because as human beings, we're meant to interact with each other in a positive manner, one that isn't destructive as to inflict pain on one another. Do as unto others as you would have them done unto you. And who likes getting punched in the face, really? or kicked, or clawed at, or whatever. And who knows where these sports can go? Perhaps maybe right now it's just punching and kicking each other. What's next to say that it's not taking out swords and cutting each other's limbs off? Is that where we want to go in this society? Having a peaceful society is one which is more harmonious in all aspects of life. Socially, culturally, economically, and all that we're saying is give peace a chance.
May I have the first speaker from the negative team? Please welcome speaker number one.
You. Fellow fighters, you've heard from the other side that not fighting equals peace. But let me throw this idea out at you. Sports, fighting sports, as a way of actually bringing people together and a way of reinforcing peace. Fighting sports is a way of reinforcing peace. Let me take you back to ancient Roman times, the early days of the ancient Roman Empire. It was chaos, anarchy. You've got this one city, Rome, filled with commoners who are upset about not making enough money. You've got slaves who are upset about being treated like garbage. You've got the aristocracy who are worried about their hold on society. You've got all of these different classes and types of people living together in the same confined city, just ready to be at each other's throats. Enter the Roman Emperor Nero, who created the very first spectacular games and fighting sports, the gladiator matches. All of a sudden, you've got this venue where 50,000 Roman people, whether you're a slave, whether you're a commoner, whether you're a member of the aristocracy, in one place, all shouting together, all joined in this one moment, watching this fight. Maximus! 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 Together, they were joined in this stadium. Fast forward to 2011. Imagine what it's going to be like to sit in the Rogers Center, one out of this 50,000 people shouting, GSP! 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 Peace, that, my friends, is peace.
So let's welcome another speaker from the affirmative side. Is it you, Ian? Okay.
Fellow Toastmasters, my honorable opponent has mentioned the famous Colosseum in ancient Rome, which we're all familiar with to a degree. But let me remind you of some of the specifics of what went on in the Colosseum. One sort of entertainment, and I use the term loosely, was to let a helpless person of some disadvantaged group, such as Christians in some cases, to be released, to be placed in the middle of the Colosseum, where they could be torn apart by various wild animals. And I guess people were betting, and they're trying to bet on how long it would take the person to be finished off. In other kinds of contexts, highly trained gladiators would go into the ring with all sorts of vicious weapons, and basically one of them would come out dead. and tremendous amounts of money were bet on these contests. It seems to me like a pretty vicious retrograde kind of an activity. Maybe we shouldn't be surprised that in ancient Rome these kind of things were popular. It was a pretty militaristic society, but have we learned nothing in 2,000 years? Have we not progressed as a society from those days? We need to recognize that we need to advance, and we need to do better than our ancestors. And I think that to reintroduce sports like ultimate fighting is to in a way reintroduce the glorification of violence, which the Colosseum represented. I think that represents a very bad example for us as a society, and I think we need to reject that sort of thing as strongly as possible.
From the counter side, speaker number 2 from the negative green, please. Simon.
Thank you, Esther. My worthy opponent, Ian, has mentioned, his whole argument basically hinges on trying to equate modern sports like UFC with Roman gladiators. He gave us the example of the poor, hapless Christian thrown in the ring, being torn apart by various types of beasts. The one mistake in his statement is that he's confusing the fact that in ancient Rome, all the participants were unwilling victims. These were people captured as slaves, thrown in a ring with no choice. UFC is completely different. We're dealing with highly trained athletes who voluntarily have signed up to do this. They're highly paid, and for many people, this is their career. So that's one major point of distinction that I'd like to bring up. The other point is, contrary to what some people may think, UFC is actually a highly controlled and safe sport. Not one single person has died in a UFC fight. By comparison, the last person to have died playing hockey happened in 1979. And believe it or not, people have actually died playing baseball as well. The truth is, UFC is highly controlled. These athletes know what they're doing. There's a ref nearby the entire time, and if anyone even comes close to being in trouble, they throw in the towel. There's also a doctor close at hand to make sure that no one actually gets hurt. So in closing, I think we've managed to refute my friend's argument in terms of equating UFC with gladiators, and the reality is that it's a highly controlled and safe sport.
Okay, great vote.
Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests, fellow fight fans. Should fighting sports be banned? Well, what are fighting sports? They're sports. Sports is part of culture. It's a violence based fighting. It is a violent sport. There is a level of violence, controlled violence. In fact, in the documentary that being mentioned at the beginning, it was referred to as a ballet of violence. But the important thing is it's not for everyone. There's a choice. You have a choice when you're choosing the culture that you consume. You can choose to go to the ballet or the ballet of violence. If we don't have choice in what we get to see, then who will decide? Are we going to appoint someone who's going to decide that, oh, this is a little bit too violent, this is not, or are we going to totally get rid of all violence together in all of our culture? Certainly movies depend on it. All of the blockbusters seem to have explosions. So I implore you, fight fans, stand up for freedom to choice and stand up for fighting sports.
We have the final speaker from each team. So are you ready, Dave?
Yes.
Let's welcome Dave.
I cannot believe what I'm hearing. In the words of Captain Kirk, what have we become? They talk about role models. Muhammad Ali. What about other fighters like Mike Tyson, who had a violent life as they grew up and then ended up biting someone's ear off in the ring? Is that the role model we want? Muhammad Ali's a role model? He can't even talk anymore because of his past experience in the ring. Is this what we want to happen to our athletes? Willing participants. Someone mentioned that. Soldiers are willing participants. Does that mean that wars are good? Are we going to support wars now? Choice. Someone mentioned choice. Some things should not be a choice. Should I have the choice of stealing? Should I have the choice of drinking and driving? Should I have the choice to go and beat someone up? I think not. Everything is not meant to be a choice. You know, if you want to compare, they're trying very hard to eliminate cockfighting in the world. And this is nothing more than human cockfighting. If they don't want chickens to fight because it's violent and it's cruel and inhumane, why would we want human beings to do it? It's just unbelievable that someone could even want to support violence in an already violent world where to see violence, we just have to turn on the TV. Why would we want to see even more violence by paying $100 and sitting there and watching 2 hours of it? I started off with the fitting words of Captain Kirk, who asks, what have we become? And now I'd like to just end off with the words of Rodney King by saying, can't we all just get along?